Hey everyone, welcome back to BrowncoatNerd. Today is Tokarev Tuesday, which makes no sense because I always release my videos on a Friday. But we're going to be talking and looking at some different frame sizes of Tokarevs. These are kind of right here, your different variations and possible frame sizes for a Tokarev you will come across. And obviously, most of them are Yugoslavian because they had a lot of fun with the Tokarev. Then we do have a Romanian up here to kind of be an example of what they were typically built at. So pretty much the Russian, the Romanian, the Polish Tokarevs all match. I think there are some small variations on the Chinese. And then the Pakistani Tokarevs, which when I first got into gun collecting, you'd see them everywhere for dirt cheap. And I'm not sure what variations were done to those. I have not seen one in forever. I was actually going to make this video a while back. In the week I was planning on filming it, I was just going to do a comparison of the different Yugoslavian Tokarevs. And then Mishiko came out with that video. And, well, he did a pretty darn good job at it. So no point in me doing that. However, I would like to throw in a regular Tokarev, kind of show you some differences. I haven't watched his video since it originally came out, which wasn't that long ago. So I feel like there might be a little bit of new information in here. Some of it I might be repeating. Obviously, if you are very curious specifically about the Yugoslavian ones, do go check out Mishiko's video. But anyways, I decided to go ahead and do this one. I might be selling some of these soon. So I figured while I have them all, I might as well do it. And this one is actually not mine, it never was. That one is a family member's gun. But I do have two videos on this if you're curious. This is the Romanian one. I have a faux unboxing first impressions video, and then a first time shooting impressions video on that. I also used to have a Polish Tokarev, and I do a review on that. It's a rather old one, but that is floating around there. And then, of course, I have a review on each of these guns. And this little guy even has a part 2 because I had some minor problems with him at first, which were all resolved. If you're curious about that, go check out those two videos. So real quick, kind of go over exactly what we have on the table. They give you kind of an idea, at least price range-wise, what these will go for. The Romanian Tokarev here, which is your run-of-the-mill, kind of your standard Tokarev. Now this one I did color fill, so take that into consideration. Normally there wouldn't be any color fill on it. The site wouldn't be filled in. Another thing I'll be going over as I go over these two, you can't talk about Tokarevs and not talk about the hideous import safeties. There's a couple different variations. This is right now pretty much the most common one. This is how my Polish Tokarev was as well, although on the Polish one they actually had to like cut into the grit panel a little bit. But these safeties suck. They're, you got a hole drilled through your frame now. They had to drill into your slide lock there a little bit to make room for it. We had to drill in a little bit to our slide lock retainer clip doodad on the other side there. They're just horrible. They suck. The Russians originally just intended for them to have a half cock safety. Now all of these guns are single action only, so obviously the gun's not going to fire if the hammer is down. But with it at the half cock, that hammer is not resting on the firing pin. You know, I'm sure in their idea is a little bit safer. These didn't have like, firing pin blocks or anything like that. But that did make it a little bit safer, as well as it would lock up your slide as well. So, yeah, there's that. So the Romanian Tokarev here, these come in on and off in batches, it seems like, in the U.S. Get these other guys out of here so you know which one I'm talking about. These had actually dried up for quite a while, and then not too long ago, a whole bunch of them came in. So this one here, this particular one was built in 1953. Like I said, it was purchased not that long ago, just a few months ago. And I believe she paid like $210, $220, $230, somewhere in there. Her budget was $200 and she ended up going over just a little bit with this guy. It did come with just one mag, and it wasn't the best mag. It functions, but you're supposed to be able to load 8 rounds, and in that mag, I think we were only able to load 6. So these guns should be 8+1. This particular one with that mag right now is 6+1. I do actually have new mags for her, which I will probably be dropping off when I return this. So, like I said, right around $200. Before, when these were coming in, I think $200 is pretty much the price on them. You'll see them in varying conditions. This one wasn't the best, so I was a little bit kind of let down, and I felt bad because I was assisting someone else picking a gun. And I know this isn't ideal. I go into the reasons why we got this for her first gun. Like, she had shot before, but, you know, not since the 1980s. Just wanted something for home defense, but didn't want to spend a lot of money on. I know it's not ideal, but that's all already gone over in that other video. But you can see it's like it went in for a refurbishment, and it got a really crappy park job. Like, it looks like a lot of it didn't stick. There's real... I was going to say there's real minor pitting as I remember, but I'm actually not really seeing any right now. So in this particular one, let's see, is imported by M+M or MNM. I'm not sure how you would say that. And they put their import mark on the bottom of the dust cover, which I really appreciate. I would say the next best spot to that would be like the bottom of the trigger guard. That's pretty good too, so you don't have a huge giant billboard on the slide. I remember my Polish one, it was like just huge, I think, on this side. And it just sucks, because that Polish one was at a nicer finish on it than this, and that just mucked it up. So that was unfortunate. So yeah, right around $200, a little more. The trigger pull on this one, because I will be going over the trigger pulls and all these different ones as well. Keep in mind, these are military surplus. So the trigger pull from one Romanian Tokarev very well might vary quite a bit to another Romanian Tokarev. But this particular one, average trigger pull of 5 pounds. Some of these I had to redo because I didn't feel like going back through my videos and finding where I said the trigger pull. Or I may have just forgot them, so these might be a little bit different from in my first video. Feel free to check me out on that. 3 pounds, 4 ounces though. And I will say, despite this kind of having the ugliest finish out of all of these, this one, the slide feels really smooth. That trigger feels really nice, really crisp. So that was like, you know, I kind of felt bad that she didn't end up getting a really nice one, but then, you know, she had me bring it home, clean it up, get all that grease off and crap. So I was really happy to find out that the trigger was really nice on this one. And I also will say the barrel, which is matching, numbers matching, was in pristine shape. So I was very happy with that too. As far as how similar this is to the Russian ones, other than, you know, obviously the roll marks are going to be a little bit different, this is a pretty darn accurate copy of the Russian ones, from what I understand. They even have, I believe, the exact same grip panel. I thought they said CCP. This says RPR, so maybe not. That's probably Romanian Soviet Republic or some crap. I don't know. But they look the same. They have that same star in there. So I take that back. I'm pretty sure the Russian ones actually did say USSR or CCCP or something like that. Now, the early Russian ones did have slightly different slide serrations. The best way to describe it is like every other line, they like would scallop it out. So it wasn't sharp, rigid lines like this. It's more wide and kind of deeper, smoother ridges that you had to grab on to. I don't know if they switched over to this because it was simply cheaper and quicker to make them like this, or if, you know, they felt it was more aggressive and therefore would be better, especially like wearing gloves or something. I'm not sure exactly when the Russians switched to the, you know, the typical slide serrations and went away from the wider groove ones. I will say that the Polish ones, they all had that wider groove, which actually is part of the reason I got the Polish one. I really wanted a Russian one. I realized I would not be able to find one anytime soon for a reasonable price. So I went ahead and got that Polish one simply because it had those wider grooves. At the time I bought it, they did have Romanian ones available. This was their classic many, many years ago. Actually, 2015 is when I bought that Polish one. Damn, I've been doing this for a while. But it's like 10 or 15, maybe $20 more, the Polish one was, than the Romanian one. And I simply got it because of those wider grooves in there. And then those Polish ones became kind of impossible to find anywhere. And then I think like a year or two ago, we did have another batch of them come in, but those dried up pretty quickly. So if you are wanting one with the, you know, if you're kind of wanting a more classic Russian looking one, you do have that Polish option to get that. But keep in mind, I think the majority of the Russian made Tokarevs did actually just have the standard serrations on the slide like you see here on this Romanian one. Shooting it, you know, I mean, it's a Tokarev. I'm not going to go in really into the details. I'm assuming all of you have shot a Tokarev. You know, this compared to my Polish one, which are essentially the same, you know, it felt the same. This one felt like it had a nicer trigger. I pulled up some stuff. So this had a 3-pound, 4-ounce trigger. My Polish one, I had in my info written down as having a 3-pound, 5-ounce trigger. So the Polish one apparently was about the same weight. I do, and it's been a while since I've had that Polish one, or let alone shot it, but I do feel like this maybe had a slightly cleaner braking trigger than that Polish one. I just remember pulling this trigger really stood out to me, and I don't really remember feeling like that about the Polish one. So, yeah, there we go. Also, real quick, like I said, I purchased the Polish one in 2015. The Polish one was a 1952 model, so just 1 year older than the Romanian one we have here in front of us. It did cost me $260 in 2015, and just like the Romanian one and all of the more traditional classic Tokarevs, the magazine held 8 rounds. Then you have the, you know, one in the chamber, so 8 plus 1. Now, I do know on the early Russian ones as well, they did have wood grip panels. I'm not sure if other countries really did that too much other than this guy, but I do know the early Russian ones definitely did. It seems like the overwhelming majority of all of them at least eventually switched to the black plastic grips, and I'm not sure if that's actually Bakelite or just plastic, but yeah, the majority of them switched to this style of grip. Also, real quick, that Polish one, the kind of thing that stands out about the Polish ones too, and I was a little kind of bummed out about it, honestly, is they do not have any kind of emblem on their grips. It is just a solid, you know, oh, what are those Twinkie Hostess cakes that have the frosting on them and they have the lines, and it literally looks like these. I actually saw a meme a while back. Someone was calling them, you know, the Hostess Tokarev grips or whatever. But yeah, I was like, that. I've always thought that. And then I got that Polish one where it didn't have this emblem in there. It just emblem in there. Whoa. And it just really stood out that much more. So that is your Romanian Tokarev, or kind of more, you know, your classic standard Tokarev. And I'm going to be using that to compare some other features of these, because like I said, the Yugoslavians or Serbians really changed a lot of things. It's kind of like, you know, what the Finns did to the Mosins, the South Slavs did to the Tokarevs. So, Dr. Pepper break. Okay, sorry, yeah, this video has like literally no script. It's got a few stats written down, and I'm not really sure how I'm going to go about doing this. So this might be a messy video. All right, so here, and honestly, out of all of my Tokarevs I have, this is probably my favorite. It's a close tie between two of them. I think this one wins out, though. This is the Yugoslavian M57. I'm not... Yeah, I think Zastava still makes some of these, so you will find some that are marked made in Serbia, because, as we know, and I'm sure tons of people have already written down in the comments, oh, Yugoslavia doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, we know, guys. We know. And Yugoslavia is not simply Serbia, where Zastava is located at, where they made these. That is in modern-day Serbia, but you also have, you know, Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia-Herzegovina. I don't know if it's still even called that because the names are constantly changing. We got Kosovo, Macedonia. The one with the M, for whatever reason, I can never freaking remember that one. It always slips my mind. Anyways, this one was made in Yugoslavia. I was looking for the made in Yugoslavia on there, and it does not have that, but it does have your classic Yugo crest. They put these on a lot of their Mausers and stuff. Now, not all of these will come with that crest. I think once the Yugoslav Civil Wars kind of started to break out and stuff, definitely they probably quit using it. And you can kind of date it depending on the number of torches. It's not the easiest thing to do. I was looking at a bunch of different emblems they had with time dates on them. And these ones you can't just punch in the serial number and see what year it was made, but by a combination of the serial number, because there's lots of guesses out there, and the crest that's on here, I feel confident in saying that this gun, the M57 I have, was made in 1960 or 1961. But I'm confident it was one of those 2 years. Now this M57, which I have affectionately named Tetka, don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. This one cost me $230 in June, I believe, of 2019. So this is one of my more recent ones. Now, one of the modifications that the Yugoslavians did to these guns, these grips, are actually ever so slightly longer. So this mag, instead of holding just 8 rounds, now holds a scorching 9 rounds. So instead of 8 plus 1, we now have 9 plus 1. Another advantage, I kind of have small hands and a crooked pinky. But if you have big hands, these Tokarevs, and I feel like I've heard this complaint from people before too online, the grip can be a little short for you. And like I said, I've got kind of small hands. I'm not afraid to admit it. My hands are a little dainty. And you can see there I'm kind of starting to come off, and my pinky's a little crooked too. But since these Yugo ones have that longer mag, so if you have big hands, this is probably going to be much more comfortable. Now the angle of the grip and everything is the exact same. They didn't mess with that. They just simply made it a little bit longer. And I have seen floating around there, I'm not sure the country of origin, but there are little pinky rests just like this here that you can get for the standard Tokarevs. Actually, this one, you might even be able to pop that off and put it on a standard Tokarev. That's my only mag for the M88, so I'm not messing with that. So yeah, so you got a slightly longer grip, and obviously that's one of the improvements that was made. Another confusion that happens, since these are different mags, you know what? I did not have her give me the mag for that. I see a lot of people say that these magazines are not interchangeable between these two guns, and that's only 50% true. You cannot take the Romanian, Polish, or Russian mag and put it in an M57. I mean, well, actually you can. It'll slide right in, but it is not going to lock in because it's too short. But you can take the longer M57 mag, and I'll get to the chain here in a second. I'm sure some of you are going, what the hell? And it will fit and lock into your standard Tokarev. Now, when I had my Polish one, I did experiment with this just to make sure it functioned, and it functioned just fine. Also makes it a little longer, however, that's not really a smooth transition right there, so it's a little uncomfortable. But it does work, locks the mag back, all that stuff. So if you got a standard Tokarev and you want to get, I don't know if I'd call this an extended mag. It's only one extra round, but I guess it's extended. So to clarify that, there is that. Now, I'll get to the chain real quick here. Most Tokarev mags do not have this little lanyard loop on the bottom of the magazine. I've seen a few floating around that had those, and I was just kind of like, oh, that's interesting. I guess if they didn't want to use the lanyard loop that's already on the gun. I wasn't really sure of the purpose. It didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It is also a slightly smaller lanyard loop than what is on the gun. So I never really thought much of it. Typically, you'll always see like a a lanyard that was designed to, like, you know, attach to someone's belt, or sometimes it'd be like a little, I don't know what you call it, but like a little lasso thing that would go across their chest. And then they attach that onto this large lanyard loop here. And that's, you know, that's okay. That's what the lanyard loop is for. Boom, done. Like I said, there are a few of these mags with the lanyard loops on the bottom. I'm not sure if they're all just the Yugoslavian ones. You will see a lot of the Yugoslavian ones with this lanyard loop on the bottom, but not all of the Yugo mags will have that. And I cannot even remember what, it was some Facebook group. I can't remember if it was a post I had created and someone just commented on there talking about this, or if it's just something I stumbled across. But I started talking to this guy, and he either was from or still currently in either Serbia or one of the former Yugoslavia kingdoms. But we started talking about the M57, and yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a post about this, because about the safety, the import safety. I'll put that there so I don't forget. And I was really proud, you know, I got a clean version without any kind of hideous import safety on there. And so he shared, he's like, yeah, I think he said his grandfather had an M57 that he was, I believe said he was issued when he was in the army, but he actually still had it and occasionally shot it. And he sent me this really cool, I wish I was technically smart enough to be able to pull up that picture on the screen for you guys. But it was this really cool, I mean, it just looked like a wholesome picture. It was an M57, looked like it was on a nightstand. It was like on top of a doily. There's a box of ammo that was next to it. And then I noticed he had a chain. It wasn't a bead chain like this. It was more of like a chain wallet type chain that attached the lanyard to the mag. And I was like, oh my God, that's what it's for. Because Europeans had this really weird thing with guns years ago. They were so freaking concerned about their soldiers losing the magazines. And I also believe that's why this lanyard loop is a little bit bigger. So you can connect your mag and then your standard lanyard as well. Now, eventually they're just kind of like, okay, this is overkill. We're not, you know, we're not going to mess with that anymore. And like I said, I don't think the Yugo ones were the only ones that had that. But I think they probably kept it around the longest compared to the other countries. And also doing some more research on the M57, I ended up coming across a website. It might have been a link someone actually shared for me to, you know, look into. But it was all in, like, you know, Serbian or whatever they speak there. I apologize. I'm not trying to be an idiot on that. I just am. So I'm just like literally just like looking at pictures, you know. And I came across, it was a picture once again of the M57 with the mag chain, you know, connecting the mag to the gun. This time it was just kind of beaded style chain, kind of like a dog tag type chain. And guys, for the next 3 or 4 months, I looked everywhere online and on eBay trying to find an actual legit M57 magazine chain, and I could not find anything. The guy that had originally sent me that picture of his grandfather's, Tokarev, I was asking him, and I think he said something along the lines of he was under the impression it's just, there was no actual issued, you know, chain. It was just like whatever they had, they would rig up on it. I mean, they might even use a piece of twine or something. I'm not sure. And then, of course, you'd have the spare mag in the holster. And I would assume, you know, if you needed to use that spare mag, you're just going to dump this and just, you know, let it dangle and hang and then load in that spare mag. Yeah, I really wanted an authentic chain. I couldn't find one, so I just found this, and since it was kind of that same bead style, I was like, sure, let's do that. This came off of an industrial strength temperature controller, so I don't think you guys are probably going to find any of these unless you work at a factory. But yeah, it was the chain connecting the head of the temperature. Or not temperature controller, temperature sensor. It was a chain that connected the head of the sensor to the body of the sensor. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe hit up Pyromation, see if they're willing to sell you any of their head chains. But, you know, just find something lying around. That's what I did. It was a little kind of cheesy throwing it on there, but at the same time, I was really happy to have this M57. As you can see, there's no billboard marks on here. This one, they did put the import mark on the bottom of the trigger guard. It is Century Arms International that did that, so thank you very much. Nice clean there. The finish isn't, you know, immaculate on this, but I'd say it's pretty darn good. What is that stuck on there? You know, it's just lots of bluing around the sharp edges, which, you know, I find attractive in a Tokarev. But yeah, pretty clean. So all Tokarevs have to be imported. I think there's like a point system or some crap. One of the easy ways around that is it has to have what they call a target grip, and basically just has to have a thumb rest. And a lot of them actually do come in that way, but they'll ship them with the original grips. And once they're imported in, that law is just for them to be imported in. Once they're here, I want to say you can do whatever you want, but you can put the original grips back on it if you want. So a lot of times, like you'll see Makarovs, that's a great example right there. You'll almost always see those being sold with the target grips, and then it'll also be like includes the original Bakelite grip. But one of those points is if it has a manual safety, and I guess they do not consider the half-cock feature of this as a manual safety, because this too does have that half-cock feature. But these got imported in with, best way to describe it is a Glock style safety. So you have that little insert there, and then that notch is just for this has a magazine disconnect safety. All the Yugoslavian Tokarevs do have a magazine disconnect safety, which you can remove. I think in one of my other videos, I'd only found one video where a guy was talking about it, and he like literally just breaks it off. I found other videos you can totally remove these magazine disconnect safeties without breaking the magazine disconnect. So if that's something you want to do, you can knock that out and put it back in if you want to for, you know, historical authenticity or whatever. I'm just going to leave mine in. I typically don't carry them, although I have carried the other two I will show you here in a minute. Embarrassingly, one of them is 32 ACP. But anyway, so they got imported with these Glock style triggers, and once you get it, all you got to do is pull this out and then put in the original trigger. Now, at first I couldn't find a Yugo trigger because everyone was doing this, and so I had purchased, I think it was a Polish trigger, and I even dremeled in the magazine disconnect spot so that still functioned. But then I did see one of these Yugo triggers pop up. You can tell it's Yugo. They like to put these batch numbers on everything. And I was like, this gun's so freaking original. I've got to get the proper Yugo trigger as well. Now, I did notice this one is smooth here. There's not any grooves on the trigger. Whereas on the Romanian one, there are grooves. I know on my Polish one, there were grooves. Let's see, M88 does not have grooves. Was not expecting that. Now the M70 does have grooves. Kind of. It's only got 2 grooves. Rather cheaply done. So, anyways, the trigger's not all that groovy. Dad jokes. But this example, I mean, I just loved it. You know, you didn't have the big billboard safety, or big billboard import mark. You didn't have a hole drilled through it for the safety. Like I said, typically they will be like this. Some of the early ones had a safety back here. And I will say this real quick, guys. If you have one with an import safety, first of all, you never should depend on a safety. It's mechanical. It's bound to break. But especially with the import safeties, I've seen many people commenting about how they had one and that import safety did not even work. So they're actually pretty dangerous. So just do not rely. First of all, don't rely on your safety at all, but definitely do not rely on the import safety. Did I tell you guys how much I paid for this? $230, 2019. Yeah, I did tell you that. 4-pound, 7-ounce trigger pull. So this trigger pull is a pound heavier than what we had on the Romanian one. And I will tell you, just side by side pulling the triggers, not only is the Romanian one a pound lighter, but it does feel overall smoother. I do prefer this trigger out of all of them. And this trigger, I mean, it's not bad. It's just a little bit heavier. But it's not really grimy or creepy or spongy or anything like that. So, improvements. Not only did they make the grip on this one bigger, but the original Tokarevs would have just a simple round magazine release that was raised in the center with no texture on there whatsoever. So what the Yugoslavians did, they put some texture on there. It's kind of like a little bullseye. And the magazine release is actually kind of concave. So, and it's also bigger overall than this one, just a little bit. So much better magazine release by far on the Yugo one compared to the originals. Another little thing they did, not a huge deal. I don't really think it's necessarily even needed. The original ones had the safety, or excuse me, cannot talk, had the front sight was actually milled into the slide. And they would not originally be painted orange. I did that. Whereas the Yugo ones, they actually dovetailed them in. So that front sight is adjustable if you should want to. Now the rear sight is also adjustable. And here, they really didn't change anything. Pretty darn similar. But getting back up here, the original ones, the top of the slide would be completely smooth. Nothing to cut down on glare. Whereas on the Yugoslavian ones, they would put slide serrations on top here to help reduce the glare. They would not put it on the back portion, but it did have it on the front half, so you got a little bit of glare cut down on that. Another thing, and this is one thing I see a lot of people skip over. This might be the only thing that's not mentioned in the Michiko video. Actually, maybe he does mention it. But the ejection port on the Yugoslavian one, which is the one on my left, your left as well, the ejection port on the Yugoslavian one is quite a bit bigger. Like the side profile, they're pretty much the same, but whereas on your standard Tokarev, the ejection port pretty much stops in the middle, the opening stops in the middle of the slide. Maybe just a hair past being in the middle of the slide. Whereas on the Yugoslavian ones, it goes well past the middle section of your slide. I'm sure the idea is just easier ejection, less likelihood of anything getting caught up in there. Now, another thing I will point out, both my, I believe my Polish one had this little pin here. I believe the Russian ones do as well, but the Yugoslavian ones do not have pin there. I don't really know what that pin's for, but I've noticed it, so I wanted to point that out. Slide serrations, like I said, you know, I went over the two different variations of the Russian ones, but the majority of them are going to be like this. Yugoslavian one's pretty much the same. They did put them at a slight angle. Not really sure if that gives you a huge advantage or not. Now, I do believe that at least some, maybe all of the Chinese ones are at an angle like this as well. Yugo's grips are pretty much a dead copy of the original ones. Also, I want to point out, a lot of people don't realize this, Yugoslavia was never part of the Soviet Union. So, yeah, just putting that out there. Obviously, these grips are just a little bit longer to make up for the longer grip. And this one says SFRJ. Depending on the year, they will have slightly different initials. Because even when it was Yugoslavia, I think there was like a... someone will be bound to correct me in the comments on this. I'm not even correcting because I'm not 100% sure of what it is. So it is like the Federation of Yugoslavia, then the Kingdom of Yugoslavia. But the Yugoslavia at least had two different kind of name changes before it just, you know, ceased to exist altogether. So the initials on there will also kind of play into what year and what Yugoslavia was being called at the time. Another change, not really a... Why are you not locking open? Oh, this is interesting. Dang. There we go. If I pushed up on it with my pinky, that was not wanting to lock open. So all of your standard traditional Tokarevs you do not have a full-length guide rod spring. So when you pull the slide back, all you got sticking out is just the barrel. Whereas on the Yugoslavian ones, they did put a full-length guide rod on these. And I feel like I've seen like 1911 people like try to say stuff like this, like it helps increase accuracy. I don't know if that's really why the Yugoslavians did this. It does make taking this gun apart just a little bit easier, because on these guys, that spring just likes to fling out of there. Whereas on this, since you have that full length guide rod, why is it so hard to say? That spring tends to not do that. And that is pretty much all of your, upgrades or differences that you would have between your M57, which is the closest thing the Yugoslavians have to the traditional Tokarev. Now, they also do have the M70A, which is this frame gun, but not, instead of being in 7.62 by 25 Tokarev, it is chambered in 9mm. Now, do not get the M70A confused with the M70. No way. Because that's this little guy. And to make things confusing, the difference between the M57 and the M70A is essentially just the caliber. Now, of course, on the M70As, I do believe they put like a slide safety on there, much like what we have here. But this guy, the M70, you can either get chambered in 32 ACP or 380, but regardless of where you're getting it chambered in, it's still just an M70. We'll get to that in a second. So, yeah, this is basically your standard military issue Yugoslavian Tokarev. Now, those M70As, basically this gun, it chambered in 9. I do not believe any of those were ever issued to the military, so you won't get any of those as military surplus. I think there might be some that are actually police surplus, though. So if you're specifically wanting to collect surplus, just know that the majority of the M70As are strictly made for the American commercial market. However, I think there might be a few specifically police surplus versions of those guns available. So just to get that out of there. Dr. Pepper break again. Okay. Then we got this sexy little thing. I really like this. This is the M88A. Now if you're going, oh, M88A, okay, what's the M88? I'm not 100% sure on this, but I believe just an M88 is this gun minus the slide safety. It's more like your traditional Tokarev that just relies on a half cock. Now this slide safety here is not an import safety. It is actually put on there by Zastava. It was designed to be this way. But this is the M88A. Oh, I hope I haven't messed up any of these numbers yet. Like I said, I don't even have a script I'm going off, guys. This little guy is chambered in 9mm. Trigger pull is 4 pound 8 ounces, so essentially an ounce heavier than the M57. Like I said, it's chambered in 9mm. This one will hold 8+1 rounds, so we are back to the capacity of your traditional Tokarev, of course being in 9mm though. Once again, it's just single action only. This one, let's see, purchased this in 2018, and this did run me $250. Now, once again, a lot of these have been made for the commercial market. You will typically see these with kind of more of a painted black finish, not so much of a bluing like this, and almost always with black polymer grit panels rather than this wood. Now you will find some of the surplus ones, they did come with the polymer grit panels as well, but I do not think any of the commercial ones were offered, brand new with the wood grips on there. And it does have a little CZ logo there. That is not for the Czech CZ, that stands for Servina Zastava, something Zastava. And so that made me happy too that this had in there. Typically, you will see this little medallion missing. Sometimes they don't even have a spot for the medallion. And more curiously, I've seen one with this medallion, and then it had another spot up here for like a separate medallion, but that one had fallen out. So who knows what that other medallion was. But I just love the look of this gun with that blued finish and the wood grips. I mean, it's just beautiful to me. Let's see. So this is essentially just like our M57. It's got all the same upgrades that the M57 has. We have a front sight that has been dovetailed in. We have slide serrations over only half of the slide. We have that larger ejection port there. We have that same style of magazine release. Like I said, this one does have a pinky extension. I feel like most of the M88s will. I have seen some of them without this pinky extension. And I will say that's probably, I'm pretty sure that's where these comments always pop up. I think my most commented thing on my video review for this gun is where people can get one of those pinky extensions. I don't know. I have seen them out there. I know you can get them. But yeah, I don't know. So another change that they made to this one is they did add this slide safety. Now this is still just single action only, but you can put the safety on when the hammer is down. Now notice this also does that feature of the half cock where it pulls that hammer up away from the firing pin. But yeah, don't know how well this will come up. Not well at all. But when the safety comes up, these two little ears on either side of the firing pin, see that how they pop up there? So even if the hammer were to drop, which we're pulling the trigger, if the hammer were to drop, it's going to land on those two ears, either side of that firing pin, so it still won't go off. So I do think that's kind of, you know, they're actually kind of paying attention, trying to see how they can make this gun more safe. So found that interesting. So, you know, it came with the safety, so there's no need to put one of those hideous import safeties on there. Unfortunately, we do have billboardage. And this kills me too. At some point in importation, the companies they started to be required to engrave a serial number on there. I've heard people say it's because, you know, the ATF is concerned about duplicates. Sometimes these, you know, military companies that are just pumping out guns for foreign countries weren't always 100%, you know, made sure that they only made one of each serial number. That's the story I've heard. I'm not sure how much truth there is to it, but this is what kills me. So the serial number that CAI, why can I just said them earlier, Century Arms International. Whew, it's been a long day, guys. The serial number they put on here is M88A. Which, okay, that's cool. That's what the gun is. 4448. Now, what kills me about this is what the freaking original serial number was in the first place. I mean, they're adding the M88A, but 4448 is the serial number of this gun. So that's just fracking stupid. Now, it does have the 9 para stamped on there. That is not an import mark. But yeah, all of that hideousness is. Then we got, yeah, there we go. Not even going to try to pronounce that one. I know you guys are like, oh, that's your thing to mispronounce. Fine, screw it. Okay. So we got Zavodi, Servina, Zastava. I don't know. I'm going to have to sneeze to pronounce this one right. Kragujevec, Yugoslavia. I can say that last one. So, and also another thing I always enjoy about these Zastavas is getting one that does say Yugoslavia, or even better yet, Yugoslavia. You know, when they say made in Serbia, those typically will be found on your commercially made firearms that they're making. I mean, you will find some surplus, obviously. You know, Serbia still has a military. They're having to police and all that stuff. So yeah, M88A, 9mm, just a classic looking gun. At the time I purchased this, you could actually buy the commercial made ones for, I think it was like about the same price, or maybe literally like just a few more bucks. But like I said, they had that ugly kind of painted finish. I had the black polymer grips. Even the safety, instead of having the little red dot there, I had a white F etched in over here, and I think like an S etched in down there, like the grip didn't come all the way. It just looked crappy. Like, I mean, it didn't really look crappy, but you saw it and you're just like, whatever. But then you see it set up like this, you're like, okay, you got my attention now. So yeah, this one's been pretty good. I did mention the front sight came loose. I still have not fixed that. It was tight, but after shooting it, it became loose. I did a really good comparison video between this and the Spanish Star BM. It's a very comparable gun to that. But I have not seen any of the commercial M88s in quite some time, as well as any of these surplus ones. And the last time I was kind of looking around, I didn't really deep dive into it. But the prices on these had gone up quite a bit. So, I have no clue, you know, what the price would be if we got another batch of these in. So, yeah, there is your Yugo M88A. Now we are in 9mm on the Tokarev. And this is kind of your mid-size. So it's not quite slide and barrel, are a little bit shorter. Our grip is also just a little bit shorter. Is it? Hold on. I always assumed the grip was a little bit shorter. Guys, okay. The grip on the M88A is actually just as long as your standard Tokarev. It still is just a little bit shorter than the Yugo Tokarev. And I know someone's going to comment, so I'm just going to try it out. What would happen if you put the M88 mag in the traditional Tokarev? Nothing. I mean, it goes in, but that's it. Okay. Now, I have carried this one a few times. Do I have it out? Oh. Wow, I didn't realize my knees hurt so bad. I got a couple of these for free. And I knew they were 1911 holsters, so I was like, that will fit on anything. What are these? Safari? Blackhawk? Yeah, Blackhawk. This is the size 01 Colt government holster. But it does hold this fairly well. Now, it's not the best holster in the world. See, it's a little bit loose. And then also you got a little bit of extra room up here. But it does work. I have used this a few times. Also worked on the Star BM as well. So if you're in a tight pinch and you want a holster, I mean, one of these 1911 holsters will do the job. Not the best thing in the world, but it will work. Throw that over in the bag of holsters. Yes, I have a bag of holsters. Well, it's a duffel bag. Okay. Now to the last cutest little guy of the video. Good Lord, that's small. Hold on. Yeah. Zoom in here a little bit. This little guy, the M70. Now, what initially caught my attention about this, I had already, what was it, the CZ70? No, CZ50, which is the same as the 70, essentially. I had purchased one of those. It was in 32 ACP. I'm kind of a CZ fanboy. But what surprised me was how freaking fun that 32 ACP was to shoot. Like, I didn't expect that at all. And so then I saw these guys pop up, and I'm like, okay, that is the cutest little Tokarev I've ever seen. And it's in 32 ACP. I just discovered this cartridge is actually really freaking fun to shoot. And it's Yugoslavian, and you guys know I've had this ongoing Yugoslavian collection. And so I figured, and I think at the time I already had... No, I did not have the M57 yet, but I did have a Polish Tokarev, and I think I had the M88. I don't... Well, what year did I buy this? Yeah, so I had the M88. I had the Polish one. And so I think I was kind of thinking, I'm like, once I get this little guy, I will essentially have the 3 different frame sizes. Because that's really is, you get your traditional Tokarev, you got the Yugoslavian one, which is a slightly longer grip. Got the M88A, which is the same length as this, but shorter. And then you have the M70, which is just... So, I felt inclined to get the M70. And I've been very happy with this little purchase here. Now, I think in one of my videos, someone commented that these were known over there as, I believe, Little Bitch. Which I thought was kind of funny. But they were telling me that these are still made in Serbia. Yes, I know one of my other videos I said Yugoslavia, then later corrected it to Serbia. People were just not going to let that go. But these are still made over there kind of, I think it's like the Serbian's high point. I'd still rather have one of these than a high point. But they're a very affordable, dependable gun. And like I said, this one is in 32 ACP. They do also make them in 380 as well. I have not seen any of the 380s in the US. Once again, I can't remember if it was a comment on one of my videos or just someone I ran into online. But I think someone did mention that they had a 380 and then maybe they sold it and didn't realize how uncommon it was and regretted it ever since, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, I haven't seen any of the 380s. And this guy is small. Okay, remember, I said I have small hands. This guy is small. I bet this is kind of whippy at 380. I mean, it's still a steel slide. It's not very light. And yes, some of you are saying, wait, did you say you carried that a few times? Late at night when I'm walking my dog and I'm in a hurry, and especially summertime when I don't have big pockets, this guy just pops into my pocket just fine. Actually, I usually carry it with the safety off and the hammer down. Because this safety, I mean, it clicks into place fairly positive, but there's not a whole lot holding it. And that makes me nervous. I'm going to knock that loose. This also has the best trigger pull out of all of them by far. This definitely wins in that department. Coming in at 2 pounds, 7 ounces. This is a very light, crisp little trigger. Let's see, the year of production on this particular one, I do not know. I've been told there's a stamp down here somewhere on the bottom that has the year. I've got a 5. So I don't know if that means 95, 2005, 85, I don't know. So, M70, where you at? Years unknown. This ran me $250. I was trying to look at my records and I did not have when I purchased this. So I've had this, I think, for like a year or two maybe. When I did first get this and did my first video, I actually ended up getting a few light strikes. The firing pin was really gummed up. And I had a hell of a time getting that out there. I've since figured out why. But basically, I just sprayed a crap ton of CLP down in there and let it soak, and I'd work that firing pin. And then I took it out again. I took it out another 2 times, and it fired just fine. So then I did the part 2 video, which was like a year later. And then actually, not even kidding, just yesterday, I took this little guy out again. Went out shooting with a buddy, my buddy Doug. He just got a really nice FN AR-15. With an EOTech on it, and then an FN, like little subcompact, mid-size 9mm with a red dot. I'm sure I'll eventually do a video on those as well. So I brought 2 completely mismatched guns. I brought a little 32 ACP pistol out, and my Vepr in 7.62 50R, which I still need to do a video on. Okay, this guy is really freaking fun to shoot. It's 8+1 on the ammo capacity, so that little guy has the same ammo capacity as your standard Tokarev, albeit in 32 ACP. And then the 380, that one is 7+1. So you lose 1 round if you are lucky enough to find one of these in 380. Like I said, this safety here is actually one that's been put on from the factory. This is not an import safety. It kind of looks like one, to be honest with you. And you'll notice when I'm flipping the safety off, it doesn't have that added feature of pulling the hammer off of the firing pin. This is a much kind of more basic, once again, cheap, not cheap, but just budget-friendly build on these. Oh, and real quick, that firing pin. Someone commented, and then just the other day I stumbled across the video for that firing pin. It does pop out like your standard Tokarev firing pin, but there's like a little collar that is around the back of the firing pin. And if you look up M70 firing pin removal, I'm sure you'll find the video of the guy I'm talking about. Excuse me, I still haven't taken this one out yet. But it looks like he's kind of having to use like a pick and a punch and kind of wrestle with it. So there is an additional little collar in there you need to push in, which I definitely do eventually want to take this out, because I know when I first got this, there's just a ton of grease packed in there. So, and I had a lot of people asking me about that too. Just so you know, there's a little collar in it. Yeah, I can't remember the guy's name. I literally stumbled across it like 2 days ago. But that was the case, and I'm sure if you look it up, you'll find that there's not too many videos on these M70. Although, when I found that video, I was just looking up M70. I am finding a bunch of videos like from the last year or so on this. So, I don't know if a batch of these came in that I didn't realize, wasn't paying attention. But these definitely have gained popularity. You know, as a self-defense gun, obviously 32 is not the best choice. But, you know, I still wouldn't want to be shot with it. Features. This one, once again, it's kind of a little bit more of a budget-friendly gun. They didn't dump a bunch of money into this. First and foremost, while it is a copy or kind of based off the Tokarev, and all of these guns up here have that hammer pack that falls right out, all pre-assembled, including this little guy. Also, all the Tokarevs, except for this little guy, have your classic Browning tilting barrel. This little guy has your classic blowback action. So, like, the design is definitely a copy from Tokarev. I mean, the hammer pack comes out just like it. The overall exterior design, even your slide latch there. But they did make it in a way that was still a little bit cheaper and I guess more affordable. Import mark is a pretty clean little one there, done by R Guns. It doesn't look like they had to add an additional serial number. There's our markings there. Now the front sight is no longer dovetailed in. We are just milled into the slide. Ooh, got a little knot to it. They are just milled into the slide like your traditional ones. However, we still do have these slide serrations that go all the way back this time. Probably about the same length. Okay, that was a little longer. Also, interestingly, our ejection port is now actually no longer larger than what's on your standard Tokarev, but a little bit smaller. And of course, that has to do with it being a 32 case. But I did find it interesting they did not bring that ejection port more over the top like they did on the 9mm and the 7.62. I mean, this ejection port doesn't even go to the middle of the top of the slide like your traditional one. The takedown pin, as you can see, we no longer have our little retaining clip like we have on the original, like we have on the M57, and like we have on the M88A. So it no longer has that little pin or that little retention thing in there. But I mean, other than that, if you know how to strip a Tokarev, you're going to be able to strip one of these. The grip panels even come out. like your traditional Tokarev. You're not going to be able to see nothing. But you know what I'm talking about. The one like little pivoting arm. You pop that off. And then the other side just has the arm you get through the open grip panel. Yeah, it's not exactly light. It is small. But like I said, it's all steel just like your other Tokarevs. And then let's see. I think I already said it, but this year I'm not sure when it was made. This cost me $250 about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and it's 8+1. Out of all of these Tokarevs here, and I'll even pretend the Romanian one is Polish, and I'll pretend I never sold it. I have to say the M57 and the M70 are by far my favorite. Now, the main reason the M57 is my favorite is simply because it doesn't have a huge import mark, and I was able to get it without, you know, an import safety being permanently on there, altering the frame or anything. And so it's just a clean looking Tokarev, the way one should look. And I really dig the gun for that. This guy I like just because it's fun to shoot. Really, I mean, there's no other reason. Used to be easier to find 32 ACP than it is now, unfortunately. So that kind of sucks. But yeah, it's just, I cannot explain it, guys. Like, if you do not have a 32 in your collection, you got to get a 32 or find someone that has it and just go out and shoot it. Like, I had a 22, and I know I've discussed this before, and I ended up getting rid of that 22. The 22 was a revolver, is a Ruger single 6. Really well built, nice quality, no complaints about it. But shooting 6 rounds of 22 and then having to, you know, it didn't have the swing out cylinder, so I had to eject each round individually and then load up another 6. It was just, I don't know, I literally got no joy out of shooting that gun. But these little 32 ACPs, and I did have a CZ50, I ended up selling that. But I do also have a Beretta, what is that, an M80? It's one of the Cheetah models. That's a double stack 32. It's still light enough where it's just a fun little plinker, but it's got a little more thump where you feel like you are shooting a gun. I mean, a little cricket of a gun, but you are shooting a gun. So this one is a very, very close second place to my M57. So that's it, guys. I just kind of wanted to go over some of the small details and differences between your classic Tokarev design and your different variations, essentially Yugoslavians. Now, like I said, I know, you know, Pakistan made them. I know China made them. Poland made them. There's probably other countries out there that made them as well. But I just kind of want to get in. This is your general frame options, regardless of caliber, because I know that you can get your traditional frame Tokarev in the 9mm as well. So you don't have to go the Yugo route if you're really wanting a 9mm Tokarev. Alright guys, so that is it. I am done. If you liked this video, please click like and subscribe. And stay safe and stay shiny. I'm going to bed. Bye.